Gopitana Baba Girivardhari Gopitana Baba Girivardhari Yasodandana Bhajanarandana Yasodandana Bhajanarandana Jamanadira Banishari Jamuna Dira Banishari Jayarada Madhava Kunjavihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagachaya Stita Sadashi Shmaya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. We're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 24, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Kripaya bhutajam dukkam daivam jayat samatina atmajam yogaviryena nidam satani sevaya. Kripaya, by being merciful to all other living entities. Bhutajam, because of other living entities. Dukkam, suffering. Daivam, sufferings imposed by providence. Jayat, when she give up. Samadhina, by transfer meditation, Atmajam, sufferings due to the body and mind, Yoga Viryena, by practicing Hatha Yoga Pranayam, and so forth, Nityam, sleeping, Satani Sevaya, by developing Brahminical qualifications of the mode of goodness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. By meditation and trance, one should counteract sufferings due to providence. And by practicing Hatha Yoga Pranayam and so forth, one should counteract sufferings due to the body and mind. Similarly, by developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should conquer sleep. Purport. By practice, one should avoid eating in such a way that other living entities will be disturbed and suffer. Since I suffer when pinched or killed by others, I should not attempt to pinch or kill any other living entity. People do not know that because of killing innocent animals, they themselves will have to suffer severe reactions from material nature. Any country where people indulge in unnecessary killing of animals will have to suffer from wars and pestilence imposed by material nature. Comparing one's own suffering to the suffering of others, therefore, one should be kind to all living entities. One cannot avoid the sufferings inflicted by providence, and therefore when suffering comes, one should fully absorb oneself in chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra. One can avoid sufferings from the body and mind by practicing mystic yoga. Mukam karati vachalam bhangam langate girim yakipantamaham bande sigurum tinatavinam Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmiritam Yena Tassamai Shri Gurave Namaha. So His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami used to ask a question of everyone. When suffering comes to you, do you sometimes say, why me? Yeah, we may say that sometimes. Why me? Why is this happening to me? Or sometimes you see somebody else suffering and you think, wow, I'm glad it's not me. Or else the question, you see somebody suffering and you think, oh, better I suffer than them. Why not me? I mean, every mother kind of has this with their child when the child gets sick and you think, oh, better I suffer than my child. But that is the Vaishnava attitude. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse, chapter 2, verse 56. Dukeshvanat vikramana sukkeshu vikatasviha vittaraka payakrotas dittadir maniruchate. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. So in the purport about the middle, Prabhupada says, such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds, and he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he's happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And so this is the attitude of the devotee. That when distress comes, he thinks, wow, Krishna is so merciful, I should have gotten much more. And when happiness comes, he thinks, oh, this is Krishna's mercy. Now I can do my service better. So the non-devotee thinks, so why is this distress coming to me? Why me of all persons? And if something good happens, he thinks, yes, it is due to my intelligence, my good work. And he doesn't think about the Lord. And he may even blame the Lord when the distress comes. Why is the Lord so unkind to me? So attitude is very important in making advancement in Krishna consciousness. But it's not always easy for us to apply. We hear this philosophy that you should tolerate the miseries, that you should accept as mercy. We hear this philosophy, but when it comes to practical life, we may find it difficult to apply when it actually happens. So one devotee was expressing this to Srila Prabhupada, that, my body is affected by the modes of nature. I'm experiencing desires. So Srila Prabhupada said, you are not experiencing. Your body is experiencing. You are feeling hot due to this body. You are not feeling hot. You are not feeling hot. And the devotee said, I think I'm feeling hot. I think so. I feel hot. Prabhupada said, you are thinking. That is illusion. So the devotee said, so I should rise above that? Prabhupada said, yes, but not artificially. But this is the fact. You have to gradually rise to that platform. The fact is this, just like when you have a fever. Actually, you're healthy, but the fever has come. So in the feverish condition, you're thinking, oh, no, I'm feverish. But this condition will not stay. You'll come to the healthy stage. Therefore, don't be disturbed with the fever. Go on with your duty. Don't think, oh, I've become feverish, everything's finished. No, that is external. It's come, it will go. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mata Sparshas Konteya Sitosna Sukha Dukkha Daha. Just like seasonal changes. Sometimes it's very hot, sometimes very cold, sometimes warm. These are coming and going. So if there's some feeling of pain and pleasure, just tolerate it, but don't be absorbed in that thought. Therefore, titikshava, tolerant. One time, Srila Prabhupada was sick with fever and stomach pain, diarrhea, for 3 days. And after 3 days, the servant asked Srila Prabhupada, does a pure devotee suffer? Prabhupada said, no, it was a lover's bite. So when in his suffering, Prabhupada saw the hand of Krishna. He saw Krishna's hand behind it. We often hear the analogy at the time of death. Kṛṣṇa is compared to a mother cat who is taking her kittens back to home. So not only at the time of death, during our life, we may feel the teeth of our mother cat. If we go the wrong way, the mother cat picks us up and puts us in the other direction, where we should go. That may come in the form of disease. The attitude of the devotee is to tolerate. Parikshit, when he heard of the curse that to die in 7 days, he said, very good. This is very good. This is a symptom of bhava. He's an example of bhava being reserved and perseverant. So now we are hearing this verse, 3 types of threefold miseries, adibhautik, adidaivic, adiatmic. So how to counteract the adibhautik, which is the miseries given by other living entities, by good behavior and freedom from envy. So how to counteract adidaivic, that is due to the demigods, to providence, to the weather, stuff like that. Floods, hurricanes, like that, earthquakes. So by meditation and trance, one should counteract sufferings due to providence. And how to counteract adhyatmic due to the body and mind by practicing Hatha Yoga Pranayam and so forth. So first, let's talk about adidaivic, that is the miseries due to the demigods or natural disturbances, meditation and trance. Of course, our meditation is Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that's what Prabhupada says in purport. But there was an example in 2013 in Kedarnath, India. There was an earthquake, not earthquake, but avalanche. Rocks were coming down. and flood, avalanche and flood in Kṛṣṇa. And what caused this is that the government decided to move Durga's temple, Parvati's temple, above Lord Shiva's temple. So the pujari got a dream at night, and Parvati came and said, "Tell them not to move me." But they didn't listen. They moved her, and then an avalanche and a flood came from above Kṛṣṇa. And so everything was destroyed, all the guest houses on both sides, the restaurants. There was rocks coming down and water. One big rock came behind the Kṛṣṇa temple, and so that was protected. The temple was protected. And there was one sadhu, one saintly person, who was in meditation and trance during that whole avalanche. He was standing in front of the temple of Lord Shiva and just meditating. And he was not touched. And so this is Adi-Daivik miseries. He was saved by his meditation and trance. And they were sending up helicopters because it was in the summer. There were some pilgrims up there, and they went to sending them to evacuate the people. And so it came the turn of the sadhu. They said, "Okay, you can come in the helicopter now." And he said, "No, I don't need, I will walk." Of course, all the roads were destroyed too. Nobody could walk from there, otherwise they wouldn't send helicopters. But he was completely fixed in his meditation, and he was saved from this Adi-Daivik misery. Adi-Bhautik, that is due to other living entities by good behavior and freedom from envy. So what is good behavior? Bhagavatam describes that we have seniors, we should serve them, and equals, we should make friendship, and juniors, we should show mercy. There's a verse 329-27, through charitable gifts and attention. So that's for the seniors, as well as through friendly behavior, so that's friends, and by viewing all to be alike. One should propitiate me who abide in all creatures as their very selves. So sometimes we are living with devotees in ISKCON, and it's not always easy to be friendly with everyone, and sometimes conflict arises. Even when Prabhupada was here, it was a problem. One devotee wrote a letter to Prabhupada complaining that devotees are so impersonal. And Prabhupada wrote a letter back, and he said, people should not expect, even in the Krishna conscious society, there will be utopia, because devotees are persons. Therefore, there will always be some lacking. The difference is they're lacking because they've given up everything to serve Krishna. Their lackings have become transcendental, because despite everything they may do, their topmost intention is to serve Krishna. So in Juhu, Bombay, the devotees were living in very austere conditions. When I arrived there in 1972 in Juhu, Bombay, then there was no, we were living on the land. There were no rooms. The men were in a hut. The ladies were on a roof of a building, and it was summer. Very austere conditions. No proper drinking water. There was a matka, clay pot with water with the top. You take off the top and all these bugs would fly out from our drinking water. And so this was conditions. There were rats running in the prasadam hall. And first day I was there, I was watching the rat above me running in the rafters. And I was saying, well, I hope he doesn't fall on my plate. He fell on someone else's plate. And I was happy about that. Anyway, yeah. And the deities, that night that we arrived, all their jewelry was stolen because they were just in a tent. They didn't have a room either. They were like us, living on the land. Someone had stolen the flute and the crowns and everything. And so, yeah, that was the very austere conditions. So this Dr. Patel, who was Prabhupada's friend, they used to go on morning walks together. You can hear some of the morning walks in Juhu, Bombay with Dr. Patel. So he was kind of an impersonalist. He knew Bhagavad Gita, but his goal was actually to merge. And so, but he was very kind. He donated, he went in begging to Bombay city. He begged mattresses, blankets, pillows, mosquito nets, and gave them to the devotees. After 2 years, they all vanished. So the doctor was very upset. He complained to Prabhupada, these devotees, they don't take care of anything. They don't take care of themselves. Prabhupada said to him, these devotees do not care if they have to sleep on the floor. They do not care if they get disease or do not have proper facilities. That liberation you so much desire, they already have. So Prabhupada said we were liberated by sleeping on the floor. Yeah, anyway, that was Prabhupada's vision. That was Prabhupada's vision. And so we tolerated. We had to tolerate. And so maybe we did some wrong things, we made mistakes. And I mean, they were cooking in the hut. Everything was in the hut. Prasadam room was there, and the men's ashram, and the office, and everything. But we had to tolerate. So we should not criticize others if you see some fault in a devotee. And we should tolerate. Be friends, see the good. So by good behavior, you can counteract, and being freedom from envy, you can counteract miseries due to other living entities. Yeah. There was one devotee in Bombay. He was in the police force, and there was an attack on in one hotel, Obore Hotel, I think it was. There was some terrorists, and they were shooting from the ceiling, and they threw some smoke bombs down. And so these police couldn't see anything. The soldiers, whatever, military, they couldn't see who was shooting at them. Everyone was shot except this devotee. He put on his Nishingadev mantra on his phone, and there was a pillar in front of him, and that protected him from the bullets. He was the only one who survived. So yeah, due to other living entities, good behavior, he was a devotee. His good behavior saved him. And so that's the Adibhautik. Adi Atme Katha Yoga and Pranayam. Now, if you read third canto, Prabhupada, there's the yoga system is described. In the purports, Prabhupada says, as far as pranayam is concerned, chanting of the holy name of the Lord and dancing in ecstasy are also considered pranayam. So miseries due to the body and mind. Adi Daivik also. Hare Krishna is good for everything. So one time there's Maharaj, Indadu Maharaj was on an airplane, and they were coming down for a landing in Africa, it was, South Africa. And as soon as they came down, the plane started shivering. There was a huge wind, and they had to abort the landing and go back up. And when this happened, Maharaj shouted, Hare Krishna. And the Christians were going, Jesus, and the Muslims were going, Allah. And the plane went back up. Next to Maharaj, there was one scientist. He says, Swamiji, I do not believe in all these prayers. I do not believe. And so plane went back down. It started shaking again. Everyone was saying the names of God. Plane went back up. The scientist was looking very sick. And he asked, Swamiji, what was that you were saying? Tell me. And so Maharaj said, Hare Krishna. He's, no, the whole thing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the pilot made an announcement, okay, we're going to try one more time to go down. And if we don't succeed, we'll go back to where we came from. So plane went down. Everyone was chanting. The scientist was chanting, and the plane landed very nicely. So then Maharaj said to the scientist, now, do you believe? And the scientist said, maybe. Maharaj said, okay, here's my card. If you have any questions, you can contact me. And so yes, chanting the holy name is pranayam. So another example was when I was in Nepal, there was a Vaishnavi retreat. in Nepal a few years ago. And they started kirtan at 7:30 at night, like 150 Nepali ladies were dancing and chanting. But there was one Gujarati lady, and she was very hungry, and she said, this is prasad time now. And she tried to get someone's attention. Nobody paid attention to her. And so 8:30, she tried again, and she said, my stomach hurts. I'm hungry. Nobody, they were chanting and dancing. They forgot about eating. She was still hungry. 9:30, she tried again. It's getting late. Nobody paid attention. So then this lady, she joined the Nepalis and started chanting and dancing in ecstasy, and she also forgot about eating. So if you chant Hare Krishna, it will counteract the miseries of the body and mind. Bhagavad Gita also tells us in chapter 6, verse 16, 17, I think. 16, maybe it's 17. Let me check. 17. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So regulation is very, very important for counteracting the miseries of body and mind also. Srila Prabhupada said there's 3 causes of disease: overeating, anxiety, and uncleanliness. So we should be careful. Don't overeat, don't stress, and don't be dirty. Be clean. So the attitude of the devotee we're discussing today, there is a verse in 10th Canto, 14th chapter, verse 8, Tatenu kampam susamikshamano. Devotee should hope against hope for the mercy of the Lord to be bestowed on him. When jana evatmakritam vipakam, he should tolerate the miseries. Srila Prabhupada tolerated so much when he went to America. Just imagine. First of all, how many of you came here by boat for 1 month across the Atlantic Ocean? That's what Prabhupada did. He came by boat. Can you imagine? Nobody can even imagine it. He tolerated 2 heart attacks on the boat. And then snow, he thought it was whitewash in New York. And the first place he lived in New York, he had no windows or no bathroom. He had to tolerate. He tolerated. He had to walk somewhere, who knows where, to use the bathroom. And he tolerated crazy disciples too. And so we have to tolerate the reactions to our past misdeeds. And then the third thing, so we hope, we tolerate, and we serve with body, mind, and words. So Prabhupada, of course, is the example of devotional service. And that's why we also did service, because he did more than we did. He did everything more than we did. He walked faster. You go on a morning walk with Prabhupada, and, we're like in our 20s. He's in our 70s. He's in his 70s, and we couldn't keep up. And we would always wonder, how does he do it? How does he walk so fast? And I remember there was one devotee who just had a memory of Prabhupada arriving at the airport, and she was watching from a distance, and she saw Prabhupada walking, and the devotees were running to keep up with him. So that was Prabhupada, and he was like that in all ways. He did more service. He stayed up later. He got up earlier, and he wrote these books. So we hope, we tolerate, and we serve. And if we do that, Jiveta Yomukti Padesa Dayaba, we will be eligible to get the mercy of the Lord. And all we have to do is just continue as devotees and remain alive, and we'll get that inheritance of going back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada said many times, chant your 16 rounds without offense, and follow the 4 good principles, and I will take you back to Godhead. I guarantee it. So sometimes we may wonder, well, why sometimes we see devotees, looks like they're suffering, like Kunti, the Pandavas. They definitely looked like they were suffering. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in the 10th canto, chapter 14, verse 8. What fault would there be and God's incarnating for some other reason than to deliver saintly persons from suffering? I mean, that's the question. And he said, the Vishwanath replies, yes, this makes good sense, but you are not expert in understanding spiritual moods. Please listen. It is at night the sunrise becomes attractive. During hot summer, cold water gives comfort. And during cold winter months, warm water is pleasing. Lamplight appears attractive in darkness, not in the glaring light of day. And when one is distressed by hunger, food tastes especially good. So in other words, to strengthen his devotee's mood of dependence on him and longing for him, the Lord arranges for his devotees to go through some suffering. And when he appears to deliver them, their gratitude and transcendental pleasure are boundless. So that's why you might have that question sometimes, why devotees suffer. So here is one of the answers, that Krishna is going to be a hero and save you. He wants to be a hero. So that's why sometimes we see. And the Pandavas, when they were suffering, Narada Muni, when they were in exile in the forest, Narada Muni went to visit them. And then he reported to Kṛṣṇa. He said, Kṛṣṇa, I don't know what hypnotism you're doing. These Pandavas, your devotees, they're suffering so much, but their love for you is increasing. How is that possible? Their love is just increasing, even though they're suffering so much. And so one devotee, one Prabhupada disciple, asked Srila Prabhupada, I'm confused, because throughout your books and your lectures, you say when you become a devotee, you're on the transcendental platform. But at the same time, you talk about being affected by the modes of material nature. Although I'm a devotee practicing the principles of devotional service and experiencing a certain amount of transcendental pleasure, at the same time, I feel affected by the modes of material nature. How is it I can be on the transcendental platform and still be affected by the modes of material nature? So Prabhupada answered, it's just like being on a boat. When you're on the boat, no one can say you're not on the boat. You're on the boat, but sometimes big waves will come and rock that boat. So your position on the boat may not be steady. Those waves are the modes of material nature. And the boat is a transcendental platform. You're on the transcendental platform, but sometimes the waves of material nature rock the boat, and therefore your position is not steady. How will you become steady? For that, you have to learn from the captain of the boat, the spiritual master, how to steer the boat. If you learn expertly, then your position on the boat will be steady, even in the greatest storm. Similarly, on the transcendental platform, if you learn from the spiritual master how to steer the boat of transcendence through the ocean of material life, then you'll become steady, even in the greatest storm of the modes of material nature. And so we can take a lesson from this verse. Next time one of these miseries attack you, read this verse and see what you should do. What should you do? If it's the misery due to other living entities, you have to have good behavior and freedom from envy. Good behavior. And if it's due to adi daivik, due to the natural disturbances, then you have to practice Hatha Yoga, Pranayama, and chant Hare Krishna especially. Of course, for all of them, you have to chant Hare Krishna. And then if it's adi atmic, that's pranayama, sorry. Adi daivik was due to you should meditation and trance, right? That's our chanting Hare Krishna. And adi atmic is Hatha Yoga Pranayama, yeah, due to the body and mind. And so we'll stop here. If you have any questions, you can ask at this point.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for such a nice class with so many Prabhupada stories and sharing your personal examples of so many austerities you all have undergone just to give us the pathway of bhakti. So at this point, if you have any questions or any reflections, you can raise your hand. So we can take one by one. So we'll start with Vamsivilas Prabhu. So please ask.
Kṛṣṇa Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful class. Very timely, especially because we are in a COVID situation.
Yes, yes.
We're trying to balance our spiritual life and take care of our families. Prabhuji, Mataji, my question is regarding, there's a serenity prayer, right? We need to know to accept that are not under our control, but also act for those that we need to act on. So when myself or whoever is in a position of leadership or who has to lead a family, and when we see that whoever we are leading is not doing the right thing, we sometimes have to take a position of being angry at them or taking action and not tolerating. So how can we tolerate as well as take action where it is due?
So now you're talking about your relationship, like you're a junior and someone's your senior. Is that what you're saying?
No, just my kids or my wife or.
That's really hard. That's really hard. Yeah. So you're the leader. You're the leader. Okay. How do you tolerate their not listening to you and doing whatever they want? Yeah, this is hard. So with the children, there are books you can read how to discipline. I think one is called 1, 2, 3, something like that. How to make your children listen to you. There are helpful books on the market, which that would be very helpful. But of course, if you want them to do something, then you have to also be an example of what you want them to do. So if they don't see you doing what you want them to do, then they won't do it. So that's also very important. You have to be an example. And if you want them to tolerate and not to be forgiving, to forgive someone when they're angry, you have to forgive also. If you want them to give up their anger, then they have to forgive, and then you also have to show them how to do that. And when you're angry with them, and then forgive. It's like that. The main thing is to be an example when you're a leader, especially. Everyone is looking to your example. They're watching you. The children are very smart, and they'll see if you make any mistake. And they'll tell you immediately. They'll tell you, and your wife too. And she will tell you everything, all your mistakes. So, yeah, you have to be a really good example. So I also would like to share you a prayer here from Sachinandan Swami. He says, when you have difficulties, this is how you should pray. I cannot solve this alone. It is beyond my capabilities, intelligence, plans, ideas, etc. I sincerely request you to accept me as your surrendered soul and protect and maintain me. Protect me means keep me in a situation where I can function and the problems of material existence don't upset my life that much. So that means maintain. That's protect. Protect me. Maintain me means maintain me on the spiritual platform. So Maharaj says, if you do this, then you will see that your problem, which looked like a mountain, will shrink into the hoofprint of a calf. Hoofprint of a calf. Yeah. So that's Maharaj's prayer for us in difficulty. Yeah, I was just thinking also about this COVID thing. It includes all the threefold miseries. It's adi-daivik, it's like a natural disturbance like happening. And it's also adi-bhautik, it's this germ, other living entities. And then some people think it's this country or that person or all the countries or the leaders of the country, the conspiracy theories. So it could be other living entities also. And it's also the body and mind because it attacks the body and mind. People are afraid, they're fearful, and they get it, and then they get sick. And so it attacks the body, the mind, and everything, actually. It's all the threefold miseries is this COVID thing now. Okay, anybody have any other questions?
Thank you, Mataji.
Miss Vasudhi Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, very nice class. Mataji, this is a connection of Prabhuji's question. It's my realization, as you said, that reading scriptures and applying them in the daily life. So Mataji, with continuous seva, I think we'll be able to apply. Like sometimes it's challenging to apply the scriptures, what we are reading. So that is my realization, Mataji. Like with continuous service, continuous seva, we can able to apply in our life.
Good, thank you. Nice realization.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Sudhir Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all close to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, a very nice session. In fact, when you were telling, we recently were watching the Prabhupada series, Abhay Charan. My kids love it so much, and we were literally able to see what you went through, when you were recalling about, Juhu temple, the deities and all. I mean, I could see before my eyes. Yeah, so, it's such a austere, life you had to lead. I mean, we cannot even imagine doing, even though we are from India, we cannot even imagine, living in such a situation. Hari Bol, Mataji.
That was the
Mataji,
mercy of Prabhupada. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, that's true. Hopefully, we get 1% of that mercy with your association. Thank you so much, Mataji. Mataji, just a follow-up small question. So when you said that, a devotee, goes through, like you said, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj went through a lot of difficulty, but he did not feel that difficulty because it's not his body. And you made a very nice point that when, we see our kids, if they are suffering from fever or something, we say, oh, why did that come to him? It could have come to me.
Yeah.
But but we don't get that realization if we see someone else, suffering. Yeah. So, Mataji, so in fact, we are, want to little be away from those persons if
That's
somebody
right.
has. Yeah. So, Mataji, how can we, kind of have that kind of, compassion? I mean, it's very, very difficult even to think.
Yeah, well, it starts with being a parent. As I said, you get some idea when you have children. So now you can understand what it means, actually, what it means to feel like that. But then it requires an expansion of consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So that comes in time when the more you chant, the more you cannot do it artificially, but it will be something that comes in your heart naturally by following the process, by chanting. It's also good to serve others. That might be helpful to help awaken that compassion. Serve the devotees. When devotees need help also, you can serve them. Maybe sometimes there's elderly devotees and they might need you to help them shop or you take them somewhere. I don't know. And things like that.
Sure, Mataji.
So,
yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, Kashish Mataji, please ask your question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Today, Prabhuji, I just want to share one reflection. Just 2 months back, I lost my both parents and I was in so much of mental distress. And Mataji, as you said, that chanting of holy name, it saves us from the miseries of mind and taking shelter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Krishna somehow arranged for me. I don't know how I came in communication with Shivlas Govindas Prabhuji, and it's truly blissful. The chanting and hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It's it's wonderful. It truly saves us from the mysteries of mind.
Wow.
This is my realization, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's amazing, because normally
yes,
somebody in,
I was
go ahead.
emotionally so much disturbed because I couldn't meet them, and it was one of the worst feelings. And when I took the shelter of the holy name, I thought that I'm being saved, and now I'm creating I feel that there's a kind of love creating within me for the chanting and in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The peace which I find in doing this, I don't find it in any other activity. I always look forward to this, and it completely applies. It's completely true that it saves us from the miseries of mind. It's completely true, Mataji.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to hear this, that it works. Now others will have faith too. You will help others have faith. Because normally, I mean, I have a friend in Australia, lost her father, and you know, she was not a devotee, but you know, she would sometimes visit temple, and she was crying 8 hours a day for months, and she started drinking alcohol, and you know, because she didn't take up the chanting. You know, she just couldn't. She's Christian, and she still follows that, and yeah, if you really follow what Prabhupada says and Krishna says, you can be saved from that suffering. Some people go through this suffering for years and years. The grieving is is normal. It's natural to grieve, but devotees can relieve themselves. They can go much faster through the grieving process than others do. And so
Yes,
within 2 months,
definitely.
you did it.
Definitely.
You did
It is. It's a magic. I just can't imagine what I was 3 months, 4 months back, and what I am today. It's completely a magical transformation. I couldn't believe it sometimes. I wonder what is happening with me. It's truly blissful, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We should thank Srila Prabhupada for going through all that trouble for us. He didn't know us, but he just came and gave us everything. Yeah. So yeah, we can try to follow his example in some way, help others. What we have, we can share. And so you have a great treasure now. You have a great treasure. You can share
Yes.
it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kashish Mataji, for your depth and devotion and your sincerity. Any other devotees would like to ask anything or share any comments or realizations? Okay. So Mataji, maybe you can, if you like, what was this is my personal question that the kind of sincerity which Prabhupada's disciples exhibited in the beginning and now also is such a like breathtaking. It's so extraordinary, and I just feel that I'm a useless servant or the namesake servant, pretty much not doing anything to please Prabhupada, to please my spiritual master. And what all of you have done is so extraordinary. So how can I try to increase my sincerity and seriousness and devotion towards Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual master?
If you want to increase your sincerity and everything, I think the thing that would please Prabhupada the most would be to share it with others, and to preach, somehow or other, help others receive the same mercy. You have the mercy. We have the mercy. We got it from Prabhupada. You also got it from Prabhupada. So you just share it, and you yourself take advantage. Read the books. He wrote the books for us. Read the books. Share the books. That will help us. That will help us. As this other Mataji was sharing with us, it helped her, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. So that sincerity, we save ourselves, we chant nicely, we read nicely, and then we can save others. And that is Bharata Bhumi Te Hoila Manusha Janmajar Jama Sata Kori Koro Kora Upakar. Make yourself perfect, make your life perfect, and help others. And you are also from India, and that is Lord Chaitanya's order, that you help others. You're fortunate, you have a fortunate birth. And so now it's really good that you're taking advantage of that birth. That's the first thing. I don't know, we were not born, we were eating meat, everything, but somehow we got the mercy. We don't know how. Prabhupada just, I think we are all Kripa Siddhas. The Prabhupada is like, we are Kripa, because we didn't have the advantages of being born in India or anything. But somehow we just listened to Prabhupada. We heard him. We heard his call. He called us, and we came. We heard the call, and so that was, yeah. And we were young. We could give up everything. We were already giving up everything, hippie life, and yeah, most of us. I mean, some were working, and like Jayananda, he was actually educated. I mean, some were educated, Ravindra Sarup and Pushta Krishna, and some like that. But most of us were, like I quit college after 2 years. I was in Northwestern University, and then I left after 2 years. And so, yeah, we just left in the middle of what we were doing and followed Prabhupada. And so that was his mercy, how we could do that. I think back and I think, how did I ever do that? Not only myself, I left my husband. One weekend I stayed at the temple, and I liked it so much. I said, why should I go back home? Went home, said goodbye to my husband, and I joined. Then my husband joined 2 months later too. So we both joined. So it came out okay. But many left their children, their husbands, and I know one pregnant lady, she left her husband, and she was wandering the streets, and somebody took her in, and she said she wanted to find God. She didn't know the devotees. And then within a few days, she met the devotees and she joined. Yeah, that's one story. She was in Canada, in Ratchathambara. Yeah. So there was a mood of searching in our generation, among some of our generation. We were actually I was searching for Guru. And we found Prabhupada.
This the point you mentioned that the shloka is often quoted to perfect one's life, janma sarthakari paropkar. So many devotees, or sometimes I also get confused here that and others also ask that I'm not in a position to share, or I'm not perfected my life, so how can I share, or I'm not qualified to share, or there are like hundreds of senior Vaishnavas who are much more advanced than me. They should be sharing. I just want to hear, I just want to perfect my life, I just want to do my own sadhana. So what is the balance, and what so there's because do you understand my question? I'm not sure if I'm explaining right.
Yes, I understand. Well, I can just give you 2 examples to help you understand why you are qualified. The first example is I know several devotees, my god sisters, who joined the temple. Next day they were out distributing books, Back to Godhead, and books which they had never read. They didn't know the philosophy, but they were sharing. That was one example. Second example is Saraswati, Malati's daughter, when she was 3 years old. She would go up to people and tell them, guess what? And they would say, what? And she would say, Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada said, that's preaching. That's preaching. So whatever you know, you have to share. So you know something. You should chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. You know what Gita says. You know what Bhagavatam says. Whatever you know, that you can share. You don't have to be perfect. I mean, your life is perfect because you have come to Krishna consciousness. Your life is perfect. In that sense, you're perfect. But you don't have to become a Uttamadhikari, to be able to share. And Prabhupada said that's the example. Saraswati is the example. She knew who Kṛṣṇa is, and she shared that with everybody, strangers. Yeah, so even though there is one 2-year-old boy in Bombay, and there's an apartment complex, and he would leave his house and go begging food from other Indians in the apartment, and they knew that he was vegetarian. They were devotees, and they said, "Oh no, we have to give him special food." And somehow he kept begging and begging, going door to door, and eventually the whole apartment building became vegetarian. And then by his going door to door, they all started chanting Hare Krishna too. They became devotees. So he was 2 years old. If he can do it, you can do it. he was big. He did like that, begging something to eat. And he made them devotees, one devotee kid. So yeah, we have received something. So what we have received, we can share. Whatever we have received, we can share. Just like today that Mataji shared, that was wonderful. Now everybody will get more faith, and they will know what to do if something happens to them. They will say, "Oh yeah, it works. It works. It worked for her. Let me try." Also, it works.
Thank you so much for clarifying and your blessings. Yes, Bhadra Prabhuji. Yes, please, you want to share something?
Mataji, he's already doing that. He has distributed 32 sets of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
You? What?
No, yes, him. And he's every
Oh,
day.
he.
Yeah, Suvilas.
Oh, wow.
He's regular in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam for last how many years? Regular on time.
Wow, wow.
It doesn't matter. Nobody is there on Zoom or on. He does that. So
Wow.
he does it.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah, so we can all do something. Yeah. Now in Alachua, they have a program to distribute Prabhupada Limamrita. It's 108 before Prabhupada's disappearance day. So if anybody wants to do that, you can contact the Alachua temple. And they're also doing something. Yeah. Okay.
And then Kishore Mataji is right here. That was the main book distributors, so you can always.
Oh, she's there. Yeah, she's doing it. Yeah. She's on the Zoom.
Yes. Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Any one last comment or question before we end today's discussion or call? Okay. Okay, so at this point, I request everyone to please turn on your audios, microphones, and cameras so we can express our deep gratitude to Her Grace Narayani Mataji for sharing her sincere realizations, her memories of Srila Prabhupada, the verses from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita for our purification. So we'll express gratitude by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Kṛṣṇa
Narayani
Mataji.
Mataji ki jai,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Prabhupada.
jai,
Jai.
Granthrat
Shubh
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai,
Jai.
Samaveta Gaur Bhaktavrinda ki
Jai.
jai.
Shubh Vilas Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much to all the devotees as well for joining in the morning. So please continue to join to give enthusiasm and inspiration to each other so we can absorb, as Mataji said, in reading Prabhupada's books and sharing Prabhupada's books. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
nice sister Mataji.
Hare
Very
Krishna
nice.
Mataji.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.